Will Senator Godswill Akpabio, President of the Senate, will Senator Barrow, Deputy Senate President, will Senator Monguno from Borno State, ranking principal officer of the Senate, redeem their battered image this Tuesday as the Senate conducts an emergency sitting. They told us it is to adopt the votes and proceedings, but there's a window for them to retrace their steps and go by the way of the majority, the way the Senate agreed in the executive session they had, the way the Senate committee agreed by itself and jointly with the House of Representatives Committee on Electoral Matters, the way INEC asked them to go, the way civil society asked them to go, the way election observers, both in local and international, asked them to go, the way political platform asked them to go, and the way you out there asked them to go. And that is to include electronic transmission of results in the Electoral Act. And so as they reconvene this morning, protesters have also said, we are with you, we'll be like your shadow. You can't run away from us. The protests that started yesterday, Monday, will continue today. Yesterday, Labour Party's presidential candidate in the last presidential election, Peter Obi, joined. How many more will be joining? Tevetia is there. He will not be joining. He's in the studio. And Apollo Semwago is also in the studio here. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Yes, Amechi, good morning to you. Good morning, listener. We've asked them, said they should put pressure on the National Assembly, and it's continuing. Reports we also have that even across the country, there is mobilization. All eyes are on the Senate. What they will do today will determine what will happen across the country. I'm sure the security agencies also have their security reports. The president will most probably also be briefed on the magnitude of the mobilization that is going on across the country. A lot of people, are involved. I know the meetings, online meetings, the discussions I've been having all through, and you can only see what may most probably turn out if the Senate does not toe the line of what the people want them to do. But it's democracy. So we expect that as representatives of the people, they will also do the needful. I want to believe that when they reconvene this morning, the right thing will be done. And when you mentioned about three of them, yesterday the protesters were calling only one. Most of them were calling only one person. Akpabio pass. I hope
because he sits on the top of the others.
He rules. He will rule eventually.
You know what happened after they agreed on the executive session?
Yes.
That indeed they will pass and agree with the electronic transmission of results. These other senators felt that it was a given. And so when they came to plenary open sitting, they didn't pay much attention. And I counted it, within a space of 25 seconds, they organized what some people, I'm not saying, but what some people have called a coup d'etat on our democracy. Three of them, between them, within 25 seconds, that would be a record in terms of raising a motion, and there's a counter. It was a seconded and it was approved. So why other senators were busy bantering and not paying attention? The Senate president recognized Monguno to raise a motion. He raised the motion that instead of doing electronic transmission of results, they should do transfer. Immediately, the Senate president called for a secondment. And before he even finished asking who will second, this Deputy Senate President, Barra had already shouted, and the Senate President immediately put it to vote. That was when Senator Abaribe rose up and was shouting, raising his hand, saying, we didn't hear what you're saying, we didn't hear. While he was shouting, the Senate President was busy putting the vote. Those in favor of this motion say aye, those say, and before they could know what is happening, boom, the government came down. And I calculated it within 25 seconds. So it tells you how they had planned this, and how they have expertly executed it.
I wish you also counted the others. There were several bills that were voted on, several provision sections that were voted on. We should also count the other ones to see whether it was the same duration or not. But I know that bill is about 300 something pages, so you can't expect that they will spend so much time on it. But if I were Senator Abaribe, most probably I would have been talking about point of order, which will be recognized. Because when you start shouting, we didn't hear is not part of parliamentary language. But when you say point of order, you'll be recognized, and then you make your input. But all, like we said, all eyes are on the Senate, and all of a lot of conspiracy theories, like you also mentioned, and the rest. But we hope that this, sails through. My concern is the INEC has up till 14th, 15th, I think that is Saturday or Sunday, to issue the notice of election in respect of the 2027 election, going by the 2022 Electoral Act. Because that will be 360 days, so which means they must issue it by 14th or 15th or thereabout. And I don't see this law being passed and the Senate, the president signing it before then. What will happen if the INEC issues that notice of election? Will it not be a ground for the president to say, okay, already a notice for the election has been issued. If I sign this bill now, what will happen? Because in this new bill, they are talking about 6 months. It means INEC will have to,
for Senate. House is still saying 1 year.
So how will that eventually be? Okay. Except maybe they harmonize and they put that version of the House of Reps. But once that notice is passed, and that part, because that's if that particular provision is different from the new bill, then the president will have a ground not to sign.
Mechi, good morning. Good morning. TV, election is one of the most important activity that brings in politicians into power, and for them to dish out the policies they have for the people and the programs they have to elevate the people from the dungeon they found themselves. The people that are protested yesterday were not just calling for electronic transfer of results; they are calling for real
transmission.
Real time.
Don't transfer here. Transmission.
They are talking about they put it on their placard. Real time transmission of election results. That's what they are calling for. Not just e-transfer, that the electronic transfer. They're talking about real time. And what is real time? At the polling unit, if the last person has voted, the electoral officer is mandated to immediately impute the result and transfer. They let him
transmit. You didn't transfer money this morning.
So Akpabio has a lot on his hands this morning, and him and his team. And what this means for us with the date TV has reminded us of 14th, 15th of February. What this means is that today is 11, I think 10 or 11. If the Senate goes ahead to yield to the desires of the people, the baton shifts to the presidency. Will he sign? Will he not sign before the expiration of the 1 year election time? Don't forget, the INEC chairman is already talking about the next election. He's already talking. So there's a lot in the hands between of the legislator, the chairman of the National Assembly, Fabio, and the Mr. President. If you watch, the executive has not been commenting on all this, and they know that it's the president that has the final say. It is him. Once the Senate agrees to the people. But what they said is very important also. It's not just about the electronic transmission of a result. They are not about the time frame, 6 months, that has been also been approved by the Senate.
Everything done by the Senate appear to be a move to subvert our democracy.
So that is also
how will some group of people choose to play along this line? But I wonder when at one point will you say this is not time to be a politician, this is a time to be a statesman?
I want to dissuade, for me personally, let me see if he's here dissuasion or not. Yesterday the protest, it's not the obedient people that protested. I think they are Nigerians. That insinuation that Obi and his people led, I don't think that is right. Yeah, they are fellow Nigerians. Forget
even if it's Obi and his people, what's wrong with that?
They are also Nigerians.
Did Tinubu and his people not protest in 2014?
It is now
Abulu.
You heard what Akpabio said.
Did Buhari and his people not protest in 2013?
Said last week, don't follow the crowd. And who is he referring to? He's talking about people on the other side. So with the protest yesterday, those people that protested are on the other side. But no, sir. All of us are involved in this. We want the best for our democracy. We want the best for our electoral process. We want to be reckoned. This man was saying something, I think somebody was making comment yesterday on TV. He said, Nigeria has to arise to be the giant it is. Come up and be the giant in all aspects, in the economy, in the electoral process, in democracy, so that other Africans can emulate. You are the giant of Africa, yes, established, but your electoral process is faulty. That's what the people are saying. Mr. Akpabio, you have a lot on your hands. The appeal court has said, okay, your suspension of Natasha is fine. Kudos to you. But now you have a button, you have to cross that line. Are you going to yield?
You see, we need to put this very straight. The protest was not led or was it by obedient or any of such groups. We know that civil society groups, the civil society situation room, made up of about 70 non-governmental organizations, activists who have been involved, Action Aid, mention them. You know, involved in they were ones who organized. Every other person joined. I will learn the ADC is also eventually said they are part of it, and some of their leaders most likely will be on the streets today. But that it must be very clear where this started and where it is headed. And the good thing is, just like the NSAS chased and others away, the organizers did not allow anybody to hijack that protest. They continuously passed the message, and they were, pushing their messages, across. And I hope that will continue so that it does not sink into partisan politics. Because this is a voice of Nigerians. By the time you sink it into partisan politics, opposition ruling, and all, I know APC people who are in support of the transmission of results. So it's not about party, it's not about individuals and all of it. It is what Nigerians feel. It is the way forward and the right thing to do at this particular
I wonder those that are against this. I do wonder, because APC as a party fought for and insisted that not beavers, they can't read that.
Yeah.
And we have gone back to see statements credited to them when the debate was on, do we bring in an electronic device or not? They insisted that we should even go beyond the card reader. So you can't tell me an APC person cannot support introduction of technology, except it's one of those that are, those I call reactionary forces, those that are ready to pull the nation back. Because if APC is in power today, they cannot be in power forever. Sure. PDP predicted they will be in power for 60 years. They were in power for 16 years, and we don't know whether there's anything left of the PDP as we speak. So if you're thinking about your immediate interests, it's only a fool that thinks about today. Wise man thinks about tomorrow. So those that are against the introduction of technology are like fools who are thinking of today.
I wouldn't say we should describe them in such words. This is democracy. They also have a right to say they don't want e-transmission. It is their democratic right.
Yes,
and we must respect it. And if they don't want, they don't want. But if what the majority want is what eventually,
that's what I'm saying. At one point, did they not want? Because they desired it in the past.
No, even they have a right to change. Don't forget. Even if the bill is harmonized and we have the electronic transmission and it's past the president's sign, some people will still hold on to their view that it should not have been, and they are entitled to it, and we must respect that. So what we should be talking about is the advantages, and try to even convince them, not to.
How can I convince someone who was pushing for it before? No, he's in it. It is his right to convince me.
It is his right.
Well, anyway, let's go for a break. Because what they do is that they take Nigerians for granted, and we have them. So we need to call them out. We can't continue to pretend that you took a position you maintain in that position. Yeah. If you change that position, then I hold you to account that this is what you fought for before. You can't come and change overnight, and all of a sudden begin to and you want me to clap for you. It's not possible.
60% of those in APC today, they were not in APC as at 2015. They were in PDP or other parties. So, but another issue is this issue of no network.
We have an ICT expert who will address that. But first, let's hear from you. Chidera is there with the mails, some of the mails you have sent to email platform.
Okay, thank you, Amici, and welcome to the mail segment. I am Chidera Izudoi. And writing from Abuja, Ejiofor Isife says, the Nigeria electoral debate is once again tangled in semantics. What is being presented to the public as real-time electronic transmission of the results in reality is something far less transformative. It is the uploading of scanned copies of manually generated result sheets. Let us be clear. When voting and counting are conducted manually and results are recorded on paper forms, scanned and uploaded to a portal for viewing, that process does not constitute real-time electronic transmission. It is digital documentation of a manual process and not digital integration of the electoral process itself. True real-time transmission implies something fundamentally different. It requires a system where accreditation, voting, counting, result generation, and transmission are technologically integrated within a secure electronic platform. And in such system, results are generated electronically and transmitted automatically to a central server where they are aggregated without manual intervention. What Nigeria currently operates is a hybrid model. Accreditation may be electronic, but voting remains manual. Counting remains manual, and result sheets are manually completed. Only after all that are the forms scanned and uploaded. Uploading a scanned copy improves transparency. It allows the public to see what was recorded at the polling unit, but transparency is not the same as technological integrity. The critical stage of collation, where manipulation has historically occurred, remains largely manual, and that is where the vulnerability lies. So the real issue being contested is not electronic voting. It is not full digital integration. It is the legislation and procedural recognition of uploading scanned copies of polling unit results to a viewing portal. And from Apo, Edward Ishaya is saying, given the comments credited to the president of the Nigerian Senate, with all due respect, I think it is the Senate president who needs to be educated on the practice of representative system of government. What I have observed from our political leaders is the fact that they act as if they represent themselves and that they own the country. I do not think the Senate president realizes that he is in the Senate at the instance of the people. But if he does, he would realize that whatever decision he takes it on behalf of the people. And if the people say it is this direction we want, I don't think the National Assembly members have a choice than to yield to what the people want. But to hear the Senate president say they cannot be intimidated, I wonder whose bidding he is trying to do, his or that of the people. These people must not denigrate our democracy. Others fought for this, and they are currently enjoying it. They are not the best among us, so they cannot claim to know better than the majority. And from Gowon Estate in Lagos, Emmanuel Nkama is saying, please permit me to observe that Nnamdi Kanu ends sit-at-home order on Mondays in the Southeast is long overdue, and it is a welcome development. This is because this will bring a huge relief to thousands of traders, men and women, who lost billions of naira to the infamous sit-at-home order. Let all IPOB stakeholders cooperate with this decision of Nnamdi Kanu to avoid further loss of resources and denying the children from acquiring education, thereby jeopardizing their future. Sadly enough, continuing with this sit-at-home order will be like a man who shoots himself on the leg. One cannot afford to be curing eyesore with hands infected with pepper. And here's appealing to the president on his own to grant Mazi Nnamdi Kanu political amnesty and release him from the correctional center in Sokoto because he is a political detainee and his release will certainly improve security in the southern regions. And finally, from Durumi, Wadaya Haya is saying, after listening to the political platform last week, I took my time to go through the proposed 2026 budget that is before the National Assembly for consideration. And I realized that the sporting activities as a line item in the overhead vote of every MDA is no longer there. For the avoidance of doubts, it is very clear that the chairman of the National Sports Commission, Shehu Diko, may have misinformed the federal government about this line item. As pointed out by the crew, sporting activities in the overhead votes of the MDAs are solely meant for recreational activities for the purpose of keeping the workforce physical fit and healthy. Sustaining a wealthy workforce is a practice that is as old as the government itself, and it cuts across all services, that is, the military, paramilitary, and the civil service. Budgetary provisions made for this purpose in the overhead votes of all MDAs, called sporting activities, has always been there for decades. The past ministers of sports clearly understood this point. It has absolutely nothing to do with taking the mandate of the National Sports Commission. And for more clarity, in the overhead of every MDA, including the National Sports Commission, there is a subhead that deals with electricity charges. And that does not mean that the Ministry of Power would come up one day and claim that its mandate is being taken by other MDAs. The same thing goes to the overhead that handles transportation in all MDAs. The Ministry of Transport cannot claim that other MDAs are doing their job. Finally, we seek the intervention of the National Assembly to restore the line item that deals with sporting activities in the MDAs. And that is how far we can go on the mail segment. Keep sending in your mails to politicalplatform@darkgroup.com, and you can join the conversations going on YouTube at Raypower Abuja.
Thank you so much, Chidera. Let's bring in an IT expert here, Owelabi Olusegun, understand the systems and processes, and he'll be helping us to break down this complex situation we have found ourselves. Thank you so much, Owelabi, for joining us.
Thank you so much, sir. Good morning, sir. Good morning, our viewers.
So you know very well about the IREF, INEC results viewing portal. We've been using it in the past. We used it during the 2023 presidential election. There was a glitch, but the National Assembly component went through. Today is a debate based on Supreme Court prescription. If you want to stick to it and compel INEC to use it, you have to put it in the electoral act. But that's not your worry for today. At some point, issue of transfer and transmission came up. But where I want you to start is, how feasible will it be to transmit the result from across Nigeria? I ask this question because I know Yaga Africa, in one of the reports I saw recently, when they monitored the last general election, they said from what they have on record, coverage was across 93%. There's only 7% of the areas where I have polling station that there was no immediate network for a real-time transmission. And let's get your perspective on Nigeria's capacity to undertake this task, because some of those that are pushing back are saying we don't have the ICT infrastructure, we don't have the bandwidth, we don't have the connectivity.
Thank you so much, sir. Well, there are two scenarios. Should we consider the ideal situation or the real-time situation? If it's the ideal, yes, we can. But the real-time situation, let's go back to when we had this, what's it called? These cashless transfers. They will always tell you network glitch or whatsoever. But truly, if we really want to do it, we can achieve it. It's very feasible. It's possible. It's possible. Not depending on the
So there are challenges, but you believe we can overcome those
Yes,
challenges?
we can.
So how can we overcome the challenges of bandwidth and connectivity?
Yeah, first and foremost, we talk about creating a dedicated network. It's just like you having a fiber connectivity from wherever the ISP to your organization. You are sure of that connectivity.
Let's break it down to the field on voting the election day so that we don't get lost in the
For the field,
technicalities.
we'll talk about having an encrypted connectivity, because before you know it, you hear probably all these Yahoo boys, they've taken over this network, and we don't want something like that.
That's secured network.
Exactly. So it has to be encrypted. And that encryption should be done for us, not the general one that it's in the public. So it's very...
I'm still confused.
There's something they call,
Are you clear with what he has
there's
said?
something they call intranet. Is it that what you're referring to as inscription now? Intranet. That JAM uses for his exams.
No, it can be intranet, because even JAM goes over the internet. Because they're still going to be from locations, talk to IP address, ISP, or whatsoever. So you still need That's secured communication. It's very, very
But it
important.
must go through a mobile phone.
Yes.
Now, there is another argument.
Before you get to another argument, I'm somewhere in Boki in Cross River State, and I'm the electoral officer, and I'm done with the elections. And I press I snap with my beavers, I press send, and there's no network. So how should we overcome that problem?
That's why I say there must be a connectivity.
So how do we achieve that connectivity?
Now we can talk about a VPN connection.
Okay.
Virtual private network.
Okay.
That can be built for this purpose.
Okay, for those areas where there are no networks.
For every area.
Okay.
How expensive is this VPN technology?
When you're talking about expense, the cost, don't consider data. Data is very expensive. When you talk about the America, the way they harness people's data, the Chinese or whatsoever, let's forget about that. We want to achieve a purpose. The purpose is to get real-time transmission of these results. So it's going to be expensive, but it's achievable.
In billions or millions or hundreds of...
Nigeria, we talk about billions, maybe trillion now, but billions.
So the VPN now, we still have to rely on masts and other things installed by telecommunications.
Or is it wired to the satellite?
Do we have our own satellite? That's the question. So we still need to rely on the networks. We can't talk about Starlink, no.
So these areas perhaps not serviced by the GSM networks.
Yeah, GSM is what we can have everywhere, not satellites like Turaya and all that. No, we still rely on the GSM network.
But the other ones, are there an option? The Starlink, Turaya?
But will the federal government want to use Starlink to transmit their data? That's the question.
Okay,
it's not secured.
In terms of security, it has to be an MOU. They need to sign an MOU with Starlink, so that any data that is being transferred
will be encrypted.
Exactly.
Now, there's an argument that ensued during the BVAS, the issue of 1 gig, 2 gig, 3 gig. How important is that in this issue of transmission of results?
That's when we now talk about dedication. When it's a dedicated network, maximum of 5 MB, 10 MB is sufficient. It's sufficient.
No, I mean, no.
Because we are not streaming.
Is it 5G? Okay, G, I'm talking about.
No, we are not. Okay, 5G.
5G, 1G, 2, 3G. Is it necessary? How important are these ones?
No, with the way it is, 2, 3G network is okay to transmit this data. It's not a video. We are not transmitting video.
I know that government is trying to digitize its processes. I know the
head of service,
paperless, what's that thing called? Backbone. We even signed an MOU with Equatorial Guinea a few days ago to, you connect them, and all of that. So this VPN you're talking about, is it infrastructure that even JAM, we're talking of WIAC, we're talking of NECO that want to go CBT and all of that, rely on it so that the cost, like you're mentioning, is not prohibitive. It's not just about elections. It's a system that can be used. We have virtual meetings. The president has virtual meetings, NEC, Executive Council of the Federation. Can they rely on this particular network we're talking about? Because that's what the US, for instance, does. If you use, you even use private emails, remember,
it's a senior government official.
Yes, they can. When we talk about likes of AWS, Google, you talk about Facebook, they have their own virtual private network. If I could recall, there was time that Facebook went down, WhatsApp went down, we lost about $6 billion.
Meta platforms.
Yes, that's their network. So it's achievable. This can be built for Nigeria, not just for the election.
The Nigerian government has given you the contract. Tell me how you will achieve this. Now you have been invited. Come and achieve this e-transmission of results.
If you are giving me that contract, we will see later because I need to.
Yes. So in final analysis, you recognize that there are some areas that could be problematic.
Yes.
But those problems can be circumvented.
Exactly.
We can deal with those problems if we want to.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
I mean, let's not forget that we're not making the law for now. We're making the law for now and the future. We're looking at the future. So, and we're looking at even what's it called now, electronic voting. That is the future we should be looking at. And it's not just because there are a few places, because these places we're talking about, obviously there are very few of them. Few places that this network
just about 7%.
So they cannot hold back. Well, look, the amendment bill is futuristic, and we must look in that direction.
Now, what I be just one last thing, because some people are saying over the social media, bandits do TikTok live from deep inside the forest, and Nigeria is saying we can't transmit election results from our territory.
That's not true. If the government really want to work, they can work. Because for every phone, for every transmission, there is IP address, there is MAC address for that particular phone. So it can be traced if really they want to work. It's very, very possible.
Okay, we can track them.
Yes.
If we really want to work. I'm putting you now. Thank you so much, Owolabi Olusegun, IT expert, for giving us your time.
Olulegun.
Owolabi Olulegun.
Olulegun, okay.
Olulegun,
okay.
Perhaps about the last.
My apologies for murdering your great grandfather's name. You wrote in shorthand, so and as an old man would have my glasses. I was just thinking of Olusegun Obasanjo. Okay,
we called out the Kwara State governor last week, and we're happy to report that on that very day he went back to Ilorin and he has remained there.
Okay,
he has not been at the National Economic Council conference. He's there trying to take care of what is happening.
Yes, solve the problem.
Yeah, we must commend him.
Yeah, and there are some 9 people that were kidnapped in Benue State, Benue TV are aware, and we call on the security agencies to expedite efforts. The president said yesterday boldly, I want to bring down the bandits.
And we give him all the support to achieve that. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a good time. My name is Amichi Anapwe.